what are some of the common themes that we see for caregivers, right? Whether, like I mentioned, whatever ailment that your child, loved one may have, we all share common themes. We're all burnt out. At the end of the day, we have to care give for ourselves. We have to make sure that we take care of ourselves. We can't pour from an empty cup. What does that mean, right? You're flying. Most of you came. I don't know if you drove or you took a a flight here. But what are what is the exactly the what they tell you when you're boarding the plane or when you're about to descend? Put your mask on first. If something happens, you're going to put your mask on first before you give it to the next person, right? Because you have to take care of yourself. That's basically the mantra that I've kind of dealt with in my life. My son was diagnosed in 2009. He just made it 18. So we've been at this for about 12 years of exactly what that looked like when I first got the diagnosis, and now 12 years later. In the dark, right? We're in the dark a lot. We don't know what we're going to do. We're giving all these medical terms. We have to learn about the body that we never thought we wanted to learn. Some of us are in the medical industry, some of us are not. We had to learn how to pivot our lives, right? Surrounding our care, our loved ones' care. So when I mean pivot, I mean we have to adapt. Just like our kids are affected, and I keep referring to kids, and I don't mean kids because I know there's adults as well. So I'll just say your patient, your loved one. We have to pivot. Every time they lose a skill, we have to internalize that, right? Okay, well, there goes the speech this month. Next month is the G tube. Next month is, some pulmonary issues, some bowel issues. So we're constantly in a state of heightened alert. We're constantly stressed. How can we all come together today to kind of share ideas on what we can do to caregive ourselves? Because at the end of the day, if we're not going to be prepared to caregive for our loved one, we're not going to survive this. We're going to fall into a depression, anxiety, all the things. I'm going to talk about some real personal information in here. So if there's any kids that I'm going to tone it down, of course, but there's really information that I want to give out. I want you to go home. I want you to internalize what I'm saying, and I want you to try to make changes in your lives to be able to communicate with your loved ones. I'm having a hard time. I need help. I need support. I'm not feeling good about today. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling anxious. When we go to these conferences, we all love to see each other. Some of my best friends I've met through the ULF and through my son's diagnosis. But I have to go back home and I have to internalize, well, they're still at the infant stages of research. There's still dollars that need to be fundraised in order for them to find a cure. They are in the early stages of finding the genetics behind, my son's diagnosis. I have to process that. We have to go home and we have to process that. As much as we love being around each other and we are making long-lasting friendships that, I mentioned earlier, 12 years that I've been at this game and I've met some of my closest friends, right? But we at home, when we're behind our computers at work, when we're in our driveways, when we're taking baths, when we're mowing the lawn, things start coming to you and you feel a sense of loneliness. Do people really understand what I'm going through? You go home and you have a network of support, but do they really understand you? And then you come here and you're like, oh, I belong somewhere. You come here and you meet families that are going through the same thing. I belong here, a sense of belonging. How can you monetize that? How can you, not monetize that, I apologize, but how can you take that momentum and go another year? So last year, right, I was here, I did a couple caregiver support groups, and I give them monthly. So monthly, I host caregiver support groups for families to kind of talk about what's going on, what can I do to support you? What can we do to support each other? Ideas on how to mobilize, right? So today is no different. Today is just an extension of what I offer on a monthly basis. It's usually the last Wednesday of the month. I urge you, they're all free, confidential. They're not recorded, but I urge you to kind of have that at the forefront if you want to know more, if you want to learn more, if you want to dive in. But today I want to talk to you about what can we do collectively today as a group so you can remember today's workshop, and then for the next year, if you're having one of those dark moments, if you're having those thoughts of, I'm overwhelmed, I remember that lady that sat behind me, she said this, and it really resonated with me. So it's going to be an open discussion. I just kind of wanted to, kind of set the tone of what today's meeting is. You know, I have 3 kids. My son is the youngest, the one that's affected. I also have to form relationships with my kids that are not affected. So some of us that have the younger kids, there's sibling rivalry, right? Mom, did you pay attention to me? Mom, I need your help. I need your focus. And my focus is on, suctioning and, changing diapers and giving a feeding through the G tube and doctor's appointments and physical therapy. And I'm this walking calendar, right? I'm this walking Google calendar of dates and medication, and you live it, right? I have to do this, like an endless to-do list. But sometimes we need to step away. We need to step away, like right now. Sometimes we need to step away, and we need to allow grace to enter our lives and say, you know what? If the dishes are in the dishwasher and there's laundry piled up, but my son wants me to go out and toss the ball with him, my unaffected child, it's okay to do that. It's okay to do that. It's okay to take 10, 15 minutes and disconnect. It's okay not to answer that email right away. It's okay not to answer that text right away. It's okay to skip things that you are not comfortable with. So I just kind of want to set the tone of what today's meeting is going to be, or gathering, and just have an open discussion. There it is. There's my slide. Let me open it up. There's going to be some common themes among all of us. And caregiver burnout. It should be coming up. Yeah, I see that. Are they disconnected? It's not going to work. So let's just talk about it, right? Medical and therapy appointments, self-care, mental health, chores, errands, endless paperwork. Oh my God, the paperwork. It's a full-time job, right? How do you manage? And some of us work, some of us are stay-at-home moms, dads, whatever. Some of us work remotely. Like, the paperwork is just endless. I need to carve out a couple times a week just to fill out paperwork for, to give you an example, my son just turned 18. Guardianship, social work, social security benefits, IEP, transition. Oh my gosh, it's never ending, right? Anxiety, your social life. You still are a human being. Outside of us being caregivers, we're still human beings with interests, with friends, with a social network. We still want to be ourselves, right? Just like we don't want our loved one to be defined by their wheelchair or their illness, we don't want to be defined as just a caregiver. So I don't want you to lose that identity of who you are, what drives you, what's your passions, what do I do for fun, what do you do for fun? Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a week, a day, carve time for yourselves, right? Fear is a very big thing among our community. The fear of the unknown, right? We are, by nature, we like to plan things ahead of time, and we like to, make sure that we know the outcome, and the outcome isn't always clear, and that's what scares us the most, right? Care as far as medical equipment and supplies, keeping track of everything, diapers and suction canisters, and like talking to DMEs, durable medical equipment companies, like making sure that we have everything that we need to be able to execute being a caregiver, right? Marriage, romantic relationships, and companionship, that suffers. I'm married. I've been married for 22 years, and I'm not afraid to say that my marriage has suffered because we're thrown in so many different directions, so many spears, right? We, thank goodness, my husband and I are still together, but as you know, the divorce rate among families is astronomical when it comes to caregiving. So being able to have that foundation at home is so important, because guess what? If we don't take care of ourselves, our loved one is going to be affected. We have to be at our 100% every day, even when we don't have it. We don't have 100% every day. So I recently saw a video, right? And it was a husband and wife, and they have been together. They have two kids with CP, cerebral palsy, and they did this really cool thing early in their marriage where they're like, the husband comes in, I'm feeling 30%. I don't have the capability today. Like, I don't have the capacity to give more. So the wife's like, well, I'm feeling 70% and I could fill in for you. So that line of communication is very important in a marriage, right? Social life, as I mentioned earlier, making sure that you still adhere to what drives you as a person, what motivates you. Because if you're not happy, our kids, our loved ones, they pick up on that. I don't know what it is about affected loved ones, if there's a sixth sense, or, I'm not trying to, talk to you about mumbo jumbo, but I feel like they're more in tuned to feelings and vibrations and energy of people than most, right? They pick up on things. And when they pick up on you not having a good day, they're not going to have a good day. Let's see, what else? Nostalgia. Remember the times, remember the days. And that right there, just that alone is enough to just drive people mad. It causes a lot of issues. The unknown, and then thinking about, well, remember the times when this or that or the other. Videos, photos, things like that keep us thinking like about a life that we had in our heads, a life that we wanted for our loved one, and it just didn't happen. A life that we didn't want for ourselves. Did I sign up to be a caregiver? None of us did. None of us signed up to be caregivers, but we're here, right? So we have to make the best of it, and we have to do what we can to be able to, these are the cards that we were dealt with. So what do we do with those cards? We can be filled with depression and anxiety and not mobilize, and we'll be stagnant, and then in turn our loved one will be stagnant, and they won't have that fruitful life that we could provide them. It's a lot of pressure. We have to provide ourselves with a good life, but we also are in charge of giving them a good life, right? Because that's what we were given. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor. One of the first things that I want to talk about is, where are you in your mental health? You don't have to give personal information. If you don't want, you can share as much as you want. We do have some children in here, so let's keep it PG as far as mental health and scary things like that. But I wanted to open it up. How are you feeling? Honestly, think about that for a second. How are you feeling today? Happy to be here, content, a sense of belonging. I'm scared. I'm lonely. I need support. What can we talk about to help ground you so you can take back these skills that you learned today? And I'm not a licensed clinician, but I'm a parent, and I do have a couple credentials here and there, but my experience comes from being a caregiver as a parent, going at this for 12 years. Things that School of Social Work won't teach you, or being a psychologist won't teach you. I have real life experience, and some of you do too. Some of you are in the medical field. You have the credentials. You have a PhD. You may have, your social work degree. You may be going to grad school or have attended grad school. But nothing is as important as real life experiences. So again, how are you? Drained. Yep. Like not enough hours. I'm going to pass this to you. Tell us about being drained and how we can all resonate with you.
I'm just used to doing everything myself. So once my husband got sick, once he passed, but still I have my grandkids, and my grandson was diagnosed now. So I still take care of the house with the kids, and just my body is not doing good, but I can't stop because I don't want them not to be able to, have a regular life. And I'm helping myself, helping my daughter with the kids, and really don't have enough time for myself. So, because I'm so worried that they're going to miss out or not be supportive, because my daughter has issues, health issues, mental issues. So, I have to be that strong person. So, it's times I want to break down, but I can't. Because my husband was like, that person that was like the stronger one. Then when he got sick, it turned to me. So I've been doing it, and I'm gonna keep doing it, but it's just times when I just want to be like, I just want to go away, but I can't. So, like I said, I'm drained.
And we all feel like that, right?
Are you a carrier?
No, I'm not. My husband was the carrier.
So your husband's the one that was affected?
Hmm.
Your husband was the one that was affected?
My husband was affected, and then my daughter, she didn't get tested, but her kids got tested. So the oldest daughter has autism, so they said that she probably has it because she's missing a chromosome. But my grandson, he was tested and he actually has it. So it's like just a waiting game. And his first MRI was fine. This one that just came back Friday showed something, and they said that, oh, they think that he has mumps. He doesn't have mumps. He's immunized. He had all his shots, and it can't be the mumps because he's not sick. He has. I mean, he catches every little thing, but he didn't have the mumps. His face never swelled up. He didn't have fevers. He didn't. So she's taking him to the doctor now. He should be at his appointment now. So it's just like, I can't do another. I don't want another.
It's just that the medical society doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. And the I don't know, the neurologist, I don't know if he knows anything about the leukodystrophy or anything, but my husband went 52 years, and he had a good, played football, DJ'd, worked. 52, he started getting sick. 52, he went down. 53, he wasn't walking. He just went down fast.
So you're trying to catch up. You're trying to catch your breath.
Yeah.
I'm sure your husband's passing now with the news of your grandson potentially being a carrier or being affected is blindsiding you.
Yeah.
And don't we all feel blindsided? Like, where did this come from?
And that's what I said when I was listening to them talk about the leukodystrophy and how that it comes out and stuff. And I'm like, how did they go 52 years without him being diagnosed, without them knowing anything was wrong with him, without him even showing any symptoms to him? One day going to work, the next day, we seen signs. Well, I seen signs that like something was going on, because his mind was going and didn't even realize it, and nobody realized it.
But you said sometimes I can't stop. Like, I have to keep going.
You can't.
But you
I
can't
can't.
pour out of an empty cup.
I hear that a lot, but it's like, if I don't do it and it don't get done, then it falls back on me. I don't have someone to catch me. You know what I mean? If I fall down, then it falls. Everything else goes, and I can't afford for that to happen. I'm not gonna let my grandkids miss out on anything. Like, I'm gonna take a trip with them to the zoo, knowing I can't walk that dang old zoo, but I'm gonna do it because I want them to have fun.
Allowing your emotions to drive your decisions can be, it's a slippery slope, right? But when you don't have the capacity to be able to go on another day, that's when I urge you to assess your situation and talk to a professional. I have had situations where I needed to be in a behavioral hospital because of my son's situation. And the house fell, my house of cards fell. It fell because I'm the matriarch of my family. I bounced back. And the reason I bounced back is because I have a network of people that lift me up when I needed it the most, right? Thankfully, and I'm talking about this, and I'm not embarrassed to say it, because there's stigma around mental health, and that's what I don't want. We already are stigmatized so much in society. The last thing that I want you to do is be embarrassed. If I'm not embarrassed that I went to a behavioral hospital because I really needed the help, you shouldn't either. You shouldn't feel embarrassed to reach out to a professional and say, I just can't, I need help. I don't know what that help can look like. I don't know what you can do for me, but I know that I need the help because I have 10 people that are counting on me. And I'm at the forefront of my family. And you surround yourself, some people surround themselves with, if you're a church-based, organization, you're gonna surround yourself with people that can help you in that respect. Neighbors, friends, us. The ULF has this logo or this slogan, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not. So whenever you come to these conferences and you network with families and you are at home and you're like, I can't do it. I want you to think, we can't do it, but we have to, and we're behind you. We are behind you. I host these once a month and we talk about really raw things that affect us. I talk about, and I'm very frank with, I'm very frank with my situation because I don't want another family to go through what my family went through. My son was in and out of behavioral hospitals because he watched his little brother be okay. They're wrestling in the living room, and then all of a sudden, his little brother is in a wheelchair and blind. Like, what happened? Us as adults, like, it's hard for us to process. Imagine our, recipient. So I know the situation that you can get yourselves into and your families if you don't get the help. I know what it looks like, and I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. I don't want you to have to admit your unaffected child or civil rivalry or like no contact with family. There's so many things that I don't want you to go through that I'm gonna share my personal information. So you can go and you can be like, remember that lady, that Marcy lady? She said this or that. She didn't want that for me. I don't want that for me either. Okay? So tired, overwhelmed, lost, right? Those are very valid feelings. It's okay. You don't have to always have the answers. I promise you. The only person that's holding you accountable is yourself. Nobody else. Nobody's holding you accountable.
So when you're overwhelmed, what suggestions do you have to get past that?
Mindfulness. Have you ever heard of mindfulness? Mindfulness, and I had an exercise for us today, and I'm so sorry about the this way? Yes. So mindfulness, right? Mindfulness brings you back. So when you're overwhelmed and you're in your head, oh, I have to do this. I have to submit this document because if I don't submit this document, this application gets denied. And I have an IEP meeting, or for those that have older affected loved ones, making sure that medication is taken. Like, there's so many things in so many hours in a day, and you get lost in your thoughts. You're either thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future, but you're not thinking about right now. So when you bring yourself back to the right now, by focusing on what's happening in front of you, you're exiting out of your head. You're no longer in your head. You are present. And when you're present, you're smelling the roses and you're seeing the beauty of life. The young lady, or yes, you're a young lady, said about walking in the zoo with her kids. I'm tired. I don't want to do it, but I know I have to because she's going to be in the moment with her grandkids. She's going to be walking in the open air, the sunshine beaming on her face, with her family, going through the zoo. That's being present. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, I urge you to bring yourself back to the present moment. And there's exercises, there's techniques that you can do. It could be breathing techniques, but really that is getting out of your head. And what does out of your head mean? Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I remember that one time, I should have, brought that up to the doctor. Or thinking about like the past when they were not affected, how things used to be. And then thinking about the future. So you're thinking about the past that you can't do anything about. You're thinking about the future that you can't do anything about, but you're not present. And when you're not present, you're not enjoying those moments of grace, those moments of tranquility and peace, those moments that your loved one is giving you, because we all know the outcome, right? We know the outcome. We know what's going to happen according to science. The universe has other plans, right? Sometimes. Hopefully. But bringing yourself to the present moment, and you can do breathing techniques. I urge you to get together with somebody that you love and practice mindfulness. And that means getting out of your head. And I say that a lot because I live in my head. And even me as a caregiver that does these once a month and has been going through all these issues, I still have to bring myself back to reality, back to the present moment. And that means right now I'm in the room with you. And I'm thinking about like 5 other classes that I have to do this weekend, but I'm here with you right now. And I'm looking at you and I'm experiencing you. And it's, the air is kind of cool. I had some coffee. I'm opening up my heart, and I hope that you're opening up your heart with gratitude and being able to be connected to the person in front of you. Specifically when it comes to your day-to-day caregiving. When we're caregiving, we're so in the, we're in the motions, right? Medication, G-tube, baths, we have to order supplies. Take a moment and look at your loved one and say, I'm happy that we're here together, sharing this moment. That's how you build grace. That's how you build mindfulness. Give that extra hug, give that extra kiss, hold that hand. The dishes and laundry can wait. I want to watch a show with my loved one. I want to sit outside in the patio and I want to listen to the birds. My son just made 18, and his favorite pastime just the last month, he likes sitting in front of our porch in his wheelchair and watch the cars go by. And I am a board member here. I sit on a couple different boards, and I do a lot of, I work full time. So I'm ripped apart, and I'm like, I don't want to sit right now. But you know what? That moment's going to come and go. And I'm not going to listen to the cars or the birds or the tree, the wind blowing in between the trees. And I'm going to miss out on that opportunity because I'm thinking about what I have to do inside, what I have to do tomorrow, what I have to do next month. And that moment is going to come and go as fast as you can think. Remember those memories of our affected loved ones when they were okay? You're like, man, if I had that moment again, I'd hang on to that moment one more time. And those are the moments that are going to carry you in those dark moments, in those dark times. Remember when when you were able to do this, or when they were able to do this. So we're constantly thinking about the past, the future, but we're not quite in the moment. So that's a big factor when it comes to mental health, So with mindfulness, has anybody practiced mindfulness? Can anybody identify a way that you can practice mindfulness in your own life? Let's put it that way. Sometimes when you're in the shower, right, and the water's, you're in the shower, you're taking a hot shower, cold shower, whatever you like, the water's there. That's a really good place for people to think and be in the moment, like that water hitting you, and you're like present. You're like, oh wow, I'm awake. I'm present. You can do that all the time. You can be present all the time. You just have to work at it. And it's not easy, and it's not pretty, and it hurts. But those moments that I mentioned are going to come and go. I had to rip myself, I had a couple of projects, deadlines that I had to meet. And my son's face is like, but I want to go outside and I just want to be outside. And at that moment, you know what? For all my job could have cared, I could have gotten fired. My son comes first. And who knows when the next time, what if there's a big storm and all the power is gone and I can't sit outside because now, things happen. So I just want you to keep that in mind when it comes to those difficult moments where you're like overwhelmed and you just don't know what to do. Let's bring ourselves back to what's happening in front of me and what I can do at the moment. And if you can't do anything at the moment, it's okay. It really is okay. You're only holding yourself accountable. All right? Guilt. Right? Guilt is another thing. I could have done this. I could have done that. How is guilt relevant to your life? It's not, but it's a common theme. So let's talk about that because I feel like we hold a lot of guilt for what we could have done, what we didn't do, what we should do.
I think I'm past it. Our son was diagnosed 30 years ago. And he was a teenager at that time, or 18, 19, 20. And when he was diagnosed, I felt very guilty because it came through me. And now since that, I have a daughter that's got a lot of the same symptoms I do. She's got a daughter who is disabled, and she's got a son who is also in a wheelchair. And that has made me feel very guilty. I think I worked through it, but I still think about that. And I know I can't do anything about it, but I still feel guilty.
Admitting it is a huge thing, right? Admitting that there's feelings of guilt. Admitting that there's
No, the mic, they can't hear you online without it.
so sorry. I used to working with the mic. So she mentioned guilt and how guilt you work through guilt, We all have those feelings, however they may look. It's okay to feel guilty. What in my opinion is not okay is those feelings of guilt driving your decisions, specifically when it comes to being the parent of an affected loved one. I share in your feelings because I said, could it be because I didn't breastfeed him? And, when moms first have that breast milk, like it has all those antioxidants, all those rich nutrients. Could it be that? Could it be something that I did? Could it be? It didn't serve me any purpose. It didn't serve me any purpose. It just plagued me and it riddled me of what I could potentially be for my family, for my, my loved one. Guilt is very much there. It's okay to have. It's okay to act on it every now and then, but don't live there. Don't live with the guilt. Talk to somebody about it. Talk to me. Talk to me all day. I'm going to share my contact information, and you're always welcome to reach out to me for anything that you may have. But guilt doesn't serve us any purpose. What serves us purpose is knowing that we can make mistakes, knowing that I had nothing to do with it. You had nothing to do with your daughter's illness or your grandkids. It was just the way that the universe dealt you with the cards. And what do I do about that? Right? How do I manage that? Irritability. I'm going to tell you something personal. I used to be a yeller. So I'm Hispanic. I'm sure some of you know that in the Hispanic culture, men dominate our culture, and it's very patriarch. The patriarch of the family. That's our my growing up was always being yelled at. And you didn't do this and you're going to get yelled at. So I, of course, adopted some of the same things that my parents used to do to me. So I was always irritable. Like, oh, the dishes aren't done. You kids are on summer break and I work full 40 days and you can't help me. The irritability. And then my son got diagnosed. And then the irritability became a different irritability because now I was like, oh, now I'm worried about this. So I was a yeller. I'm not afraid to say that I've come a long way from those days when I used to yell at my kids about really nonsense. I was always irritable. It didn't serve any purpose. It just kind of alienated me from people. Like I was unapproachable. My husband and I couldn't really talk because everything would bother me. And then my son's diagnosis really humbled me. Oh boy, did it humble me. I pivoted overnight and I became this completely different person because the irritability didn't foster or promote a culture in my family that we can talk about anything. And guess what? I told you a little bit about my son's situation. That's how it manifested, right? And I said, okay, now I need to make drastic changes. So when we're irritable, our family picks up on that. Sometimes my son will have a bowel movement or he will go to the bathroom and I'm dead tired. And any slight, inconvenience, I make sure that he doesn't hear me. I'm annoyed sometimes. We're human. I'm annoyed that I have to get up and I have to change him. But he didn't ask for that. He didn't ask to be 18 in diapers and he has to be waited on. He didn't ask for that. So my moments of irritability have really come a long way. It's okay to be irritable. It's okay not to have a good day. It's okay not to be your one. You don't always have to be cheerful. It's okay. But also our loved ones pick up on our moods a lot. And our moods affect our kids and our loved ones. So I want you to be careful with that. Irritable. Anybody feel? Am I the only one? It's a big thing. It's, you're pulled in so many directions, Fatigue. When you are fatigued, your mind doesn't think straight. Lack of sleep, lack of rest, lack of having a moment to yourself really drives up your, can drive your mood anywhere, right? Any which way. So let's talk about fatigue. It could be physical fatigue. It could be mental fatigue, but we all have it. Every one of us has fatigue. What can we do about it? What should we do about fatigue? Remember when I talked about the mask situation, the oxygen mask, that analogy? So my husband and I have come to a consensus that we have to have time away from each other. My husband is a former military personnel, so he enjoys playing with his, military things. I don't even know what to say. I'm trying to be sensitive because I know he likes to go to the range and, that way. I'm more like, hey, let me read a book and can you leave me alone for like an hour? Okay. Fatigue. What do you do to help combat fatigue? Anybody? In your personal lives, what do you do for yourselves to combat fatigue? Going into the whirlpool for an hour, going to a concert with your best friend, having a ladies' night out, having a ladies' night in. It could look so many ways. One of the things that my husband and I were like always tired, always. I feel like I have bags under bags and bags and bags under my eyes. Even when you're so tired, you still have to find time for yourself. You have to. Whatever that may look like for your life, go golfing, catch up on a Netflix show when everybody's sleeping. For those of you that are in relationships, a date night doesn't necessarily have to be like out on the town. You can have a date night indoors. My husband and I have date nights in our patio. On Sundays we like to have coffee together before my son wakes up, and we have breakfast. It's 7 o'clock in the morning and we're super tired because we both work like 12, 13 hours a day, but we make it a point. I'm fatigued. I don't want to do it. I want to sleep in. But you know what? That moment may not come again. And I'm constantly in a state of heightened alertness. I may not have this time again. That's what drives my decisions. And I hope that it doesn't drive yours, because remember the whole mindfulness thing, it comes into play, right? Fear, anger, and resentment. Oh my goodness, I know we can talk all day about that. Fear of the unknown, what is going to happen to our loved ones when we don't have those answers. Resentment and anger. Let's talk about that for a second. Who are we angry at? As humans, we have to point the finger to somebody, right? That's just human nature. We have to blame somebody. Who can I blame? You. Yes.
It's no disrespect to any of the doctors, but I'm kind of angry at a few of them. And the reason why is because not all doctors, but I feel that some doctors do not listen to parents. And if the doctors would have just listened to the parents, maybe we would have had a different outcome. My son was 3 years old in junior pre-K, and he started stuttering. And he started doing some involuntary movements with his arms and legs. And we were told he was just a little boy having growing pains. Don't worry about it. He'll be fine. We left that doctor and went to another doctor and said, hey, my son is doing this involuntary movements with his face and hands and arms. Can we please get a referral to a neurologist so we can get an MRI and get things checked out? The second doctor, we asked for a referral to a neurologist. No, he's fine. He'll be fine. 3 years later, we finally got the referral that we've been asking for 3 years. Do you know we got the referral July 8th? Our son seized on July 9th. And we were sent to Comer Children's Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, and found out that he had adrenal leukodystrophy. And in a matter of months, he went from knowing all of his states and capitals, doing double-digit math, to now he doesn't even know what a number is from a letter. He's lost 90% of his vision, 60% of his hearing, his ability to walk, and all of his cognitive skills are just going downhill. So that's why I'm just angry that doctors just don't listen. And I'll share one other story. We have a parent that we found online who her son, she would tell him to do something and he would translate the verbiage to, if she said, go put your coat on, he'd be like, the bat isn't in the tree. She took her son to Boston Medical and had to do a sit-in and demanded they do an MRI because they kept refusing her. It turns out her son had adrenal leukodystrophy. So they won't listen. We're at the forefront of our children. We know what's going on. And if they just listen, we know we don't have the medical degree, but we know children. We know our children. So that's just the message I wanted to share. Okay.
How old is he now?
My son will be 8 years old on June 30th, and we've been advised to take him on his Make-A-Wish trip sooner than later. So we're going to Disney on the 29th to celebrate his birthday at Animal Kingdom on the 30th.
Thank you for sharing that.
I agree with being frustrated with the medical facilities. We have run into so many doctors, they know nothing about it. They have to know that they're over their head in what's happening. They do not want to refer you to someone else because they're thinking strictly about money. If we can get you in every 6 months, 3 months, a year, it's money in my pocket. I don't want to lose you as a patient, but I don't want to treat you. That's would be my frustration.
Oh, no, I mean, I agree with
Any doctor I go to, I'm a better doctor than what they are when I tell them what I have.
We finally found doctors, we just tell them what we want and we do
Yeah.
it. Because we found that, and we've seen it with patients over and over again, that doctors do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Because they're treating symptoms that don't necessarily need to be treated, and then they often, the medications they put them on actually make it worse, and over and over and over again.
We know-
Finally just got to the point where we just kept going to doctors, till we found, it's like, no, this is what we're going to do. Okay. Like,
We know more than the doctors do when it comes to
because
this.
and I think you have to find doctors who know that you know
Yeah.
more, and it's hard, they always act like they know what they're talking
Yeah.
about, when they have no idea, they know nothing about this disease.
Our son has a terminal brain disease,
Yeah, they
and
don't
they
know
tried to
anything about it.
retrofit him to having ALD.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Autism?
autism,
Yeah,
not autism,
no,
but,
exactly, it's so frustrating.
oh my God, what did they try to say then?
you. Well, they said my husband had mad cow disease before they found out he had, yeah. Yeah.
It's very,
ADHD, I'm so sorry.
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to give my son ADHD, he has a rare brain, disease, terminal brain disease, ADHD.
Like, they don't
Can-
know, and it's really hard to find, and I think especially for this disease. There's only really like 1 or 2 hospitals in the country who know what they're talking about, and even then, we're lucky enough that we live near Philadelphia, so we can go to CHOP. Even then, I've had to say to the doctor, yeah, no, we're not going to put him on this medication, because I've seen what happens, and I'm not doing it. You know, it's like, even then, they don't, even doctors who know what they're talking about don't know what they're talking about. And I think if you live in other parts of the country, it's like impossible to find people who have seen your disease before. So I think this is where the patient communities become so important, is finding those other people online and coming to these conferences. And I feel like we've learned far more about our disease from other patients and other families than we ever did from any doctors, because everybody is, you know, with our diseases, they've been around a while now, and everybody's tried everything. So, you know, you can get, if it's like, okay, that didn't work, all right, we'll try that, you know, and it's like, oh, I tried this and this, you know, this did help. And it's, so I feel like coming to these really does help in that respect. But it is, we all feel you. We've all been there. It's so infuriating. It's so frustrating. And it really is. And it's just like, you know that it could have, it didn't have to be that way.
You pointed out that that is why it's so important for us to be at conferences. That is why it's so important for us to connect.
That is why it's so important for all of us to connect outside of the conference, because we're going to take the information that we learned over the weekend, and we have a laundry list of things that we have to do with our kids, right? Pulmonary, GI, neurology, physiology. We have to take those things that we learned, and we have to educate our medical team. We have to advise them. Some of us are more passive aggressive, not passive aggressive. Some of us are more passive than others. But when it comes to our loved ones, we can't. We have to speak up. We have to make it known that no, you have to listen to me. You have to listen to me. And doctors, I'm sorry, you know, not all doctors are like that. But I know that it took about a year for me to get the referral for the MRI. I know exactly what you mean. They're like, oh, he'll grow out of it. Guess what? He's blind, G-tube, in a wheelchair. He never grew out of it. So we have 3 minutes left. Worry and frustration goes hand in hand, right? Worry about the things we cannot control. God, that plagues us, doesn't it? Worry about the dang doctor, pardon my language, but the doctor not listening to me and not giving me that referral to the nutritionist. And in turn, my child is like not being able to eat, or my loved one is not being able to eat, and now they're losing weight because they're not listening to me. And I'm worried. I'm worried. So what can you do in your communities with all these feelings, all these packages of feelings that we internalize? What do we do in our communities? What are you going to do about it? I want you to take action. I want you to take action. I want you to take whatever you learned today. I want you to remember my face and those around you. Look around the room, and you're not alone. You're never going to be alone. It feels like it, but you're not. You're in a cool club that you didn't want to be in. Right? I want you to take today, what you learned today, and I'm going to be hosting a couple more workshops throughout the weekend. Approach me. Stop me in the hallway if you want to talk some more. I'll be sharing my contact information at some point so you all can, talk to me. Again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a social worker. I'm a parent. I'm just like you. And boy, do I have boy, do we have more experience than some clinicians. Does anybody have any final thoughts they'd like to share with the group? I remember seeing you. Were you in one of my webinars? Maybe last year. No, I think maybe last year. But please, I don't want you to feel like you're alone. I also want to validate that everything that you're feeling is what all of us are feeling too. And it's okay. And sometimes things are not going to be okay. And that's okay too. So go to your communities, take action, and you don't let those doctors bully you into thinking that they know more than you. Don't let that happen, right? Because if you don't speak up for your child or your loved one, who will speak up for them? Thank you for your time. My name is Marcy Flores. I appreciate everyone being here today.